some of these things. One that I thought was interesting is like if you're reading one of these articles and it's very similar to a press release on which it's based.
Yes.
That's interesting, and that could probably tie in a bit with what, say, a government might propose or a politician might put out there that's wanting to influence people. If it doesn't, actually express its methodology, use the appropriate technical terms, actually have the quotable evidence attached to it. I don't know. This article goes through 10 different things here, but I'm starting to think, isn't that just a common sense approach? You're looking for things that make sense, things that are logical and are backed up.
But this is where this is very tricky stuff. And it's, whether it's fake news about politicians or fake news about a particular social issue, it's always exactly the same. And you've hit on it there. Of course, you want to, whatever you're reading, you look into logically. Most people do. And they look for reason.
Yeah.
And,
But could it be that the fake news stories that go out are just so well done that it is reason to people, and that's where it's dangerous?
So imagine you have no knowledge about a particular issue, but there's something very reasoned, very logical. And my own personal test is the infomercial test, because a really good infomercial can convince you that you need a sabaka or a pillow, or to get a good night's sleep, or that you really do need the Chuck Norris Total Gym 2000. Now, if you watch those, you'll probably never buy them. But if you watch them, those infomercials are done so well that you actually will think at the end, gee, that's actually a pretty good product. I believe in that. Look, Chuck Norris uses it. A stuntman uses the sabaka pillow, etc., etc. And you've got no basis. If you actually think about it, there's no basis other than what you've seen in the infomercial to suggest that that's the truth. And that's how fake news works. It's highly scripted, highly convincing, and it's too even. It's actually too even. So if you ever really want to check something, ask yourself at the end of it, did it prove a point? And if it proved it absolutely conclusively, but doesn't really talk about anything other than the issue, if it doesn't go wider and bring in information from wider sources, and if you find it very convincing and very extremely logical, chances are that it's probably fake. If you look at some of the fake news stuff that went around, they're classic. So you can watch some of the fake news stuff which you know to be fake. And if you put aside your emotion or just sit down and listen to it, it all makes so much sense. Whether it's, ballot boxes that have been locked in storage somewhere. I mean, of course that would happen. That's exactly how it would happen. It didn't happen. But it's completely plausible. In fact, it's so plausible and presented so convincingly that, unless you really have a wider grasp of the subject, how could you know? And I think that's the trick, and that's what's employed. You pull in big names, you pull in all sorts of things that people know and identify with, and create a really compelling argument. And
so I guess that's how, like in the presidential campaign, that whole fake news thing around Clinton being, committing crimes. Stemmed from someone must have done the numbers and worked out that people were already suspicious of her. A big chunk of the electorate was suspicious of her anyway, for whatever reason, and they just tailored it to not only hit their suspicions but to amplify them.
And that's why fake news works, because deep down people want to believe it. So thankfully, although you'd wish it would work better, but there's still a lot of people who believe we haven't been to the moon.
Yeah.
But most reasonable people know we have.
Yeah.
Know we have. Don't believe we have. Know we have.
Yeah.
Okay. But for those that really want to believe that there's some sort of conspiracy, whether it's chemtrails or whatever else, all you need to do is hit those trigger points, and you'll believe in chemtrails, you believe they're putting stuff in our water, you'll believe they never went to the moon, you'll believe aliens run the White House secretly, all that sort of stuff, all day long.
Yeah.
For the rest of us who are more reasonable, though, we all have personal beliefs, and we're emotionally very susceptible to accepting patterns or pattern recognition, and we're also very susceptible to converting that pattern recognition to our particular personal views. So that's where fake news sits. Fake news sits in that sort of world of imagination we all have that allow us to kind of believe in Harry Potter, even though we know Harry Potter isn't real, but everyone kind of has a Harry Potter fantasy or a Hobbit fantasy, or a Star Wars fantasy. We know it's not real, but we want to believe, and that's why we go to the movies and we love those films. Fake news is exactly the same thing, except it's playing with your emotions on stories that are actually very important for us socially and culturally.